What kind of divine friendship is this? The three of them were so close that they shared everything, from candy to comforting hugs. When classmates mocked Suji's biological mother, she didn't utter a word. Instead, she picked up a nearby trash can and hurled it straight at the boy's head without hesitation. All three of them came from elite families. Sihyun was the heir to one of Korea's top conglomerates, a famously powerful third-generation chaebol. He was born with a naturally seductive charm. Any woman his father took an interest in, Sihyun could effortlessly win over, only to discard them like toys after a brief romance, leaving them with nothing. Yet, despite his playboy ways, Sihyun had always been deeply cherished by Suji since childhood. She often helped him fend off relentless admirers, standing loyally by his side. The other boy, Seju, also hailed from a well-respected and wealthy family. He lived a carefree life, filled with happiness, and always supported Suji in expressing her feelings. The bond among the three became the envy of the entire school. With two powerful boys protecting her, Suji was fearless, unafraid of anyone. Once, when she saw the principal harassing a female student, she stabbed his hand with a flower without a second thought. One day, as the three of them walked out of the school together, a tall, rich, and handsome young man appeared with flowers in hand. He had come to pick up Suji for a date. The two boys, secretly harboring feelings for her, were filled with jealousy and tried to dissuade her from going. But Suji wouldn't listen. In the end, they could only watch helplessly as the man took her away. At the date location, Suji had expected to be formally introduced, but instead, she learned from his friends that he already had someone, Tae-hee, the daughter of a university professor, who had never stopped loving him. Soon after, the man confessed to Suji that he never intended to be with her. He had only approached her at his mother's request. He even mocked her father for ending up in prison and told her that, with her fallen family status, she was no longer good enough for him. At a high society party not long after, the man once again met his first love, Tae-hee, and eagerly approached her to ask her out. Suji saw it all and was devastated. Fueled by pain and betrayal, she decided to take revenge by having Sihyun seduce Tae-hee. But she had no idea this would be the beginning of her own downfall. At another glamorous gathering, Sihyun's father and Suji's mother suddenly announced their engagement. The news stunned both of them. Sihyun couldn't take it and ran from the scene in shock. Distracted and heartbroken, he drove without focus, and a girl suddenly ran into the road. He slammed on the brakes, hitting his head on the steering wheel and starting to bleed. Staggering out of the car, he saw that the girl had blood running down her leg. He handed her his phone and told her to contact him for compensation. Just then, Seju called, urging Sihyun to go check on Suji immediately. When he arrived, he tried to comfort her, but Suji's mother blocked him. Watching from a distance, Suji was reminded of the day her father died, and finally broke down in anguish. Seeing the blood on Sihyun's forehead, Suji momentarily forgot her own pain and injuries. Concerned, she asked what had happened. Sihyun could only gently pull her into a hug, whispering that everything was going to be okay. Only then did Suji begin to calm down. Nearby, Seju watched the two of them, deep in thought. He couldn't tell whether this was a good or bad development. To address the situation, Sihyun suddenly proposed that he and Suji should get married first to catch everyone off guard. But Suji disagreed with this approach. Sihyun argued that they could always divorce later, but Suji said, "I want to be like our mothers and reject everything." He admitted he only wanted to rebel against his father but didn't want to sacrifice his whole life in the process. He told Suji to treat him as a weapon, to use him as much as needed. He didn't care what happened to him, as long as he could protect the person he loved. It turned out that 5 years ago, Sihyun had already confessed his feelings to Suji. But Suji rejected him, not wanting to ruin the beautiful friendship they had. Just as they were about to have a serious moment again, both burst into laughter. But this time, when Sihyun confessed once more, Suji still doubted his sincerity. Suji was the pride of high society. One day, a man stopped her, mesmerized by her good looks, and tried to take her by force. This scene happened to be witnessed by Seju, who immediately stepped in and punched the man. With him around, he would never allow Suji to be hurt. Before leaving, he even gave Soo-ji a medicated patch and told her to apply it to her arm. The next day, when Si-hyun saw Soo-ji, the first thing he did was gently ask about her arm. The two went to a convenience store to eat and ended up discussing their parents' remarriage. Soo jokingly asked, "Aren't you happy you gained a beautiful little sister?" Si-hyun simply smiled and teasingly asked in return. Later, Si-hyun gently massaged Soo-ji's arm. Pampered like a princess by two devoted men, Soo-ji never imagined anything would change. But she instructed Si-hyun to pursue Tae-hee and then coldly dump her, believing firmly that Si-hyun's love for her would never waver. But Si-hyun discovered Tae-hee was different from all the other women he'd met. No matter how charming he tried to be, Tae-hee remained unmoved. He even waited in the snow outside all night, only for his gesture of giving her plum blossoms to be mistaken for harassment. Security ended up escorting him away. Tae-hee was considered a joke at school and constantly received confessions, but never took any of them seriously. Determined to win her over, Si-hyun waited for her at the bus stop. When she got off the bus, Tae-hee asked why he kept following her. It was then that the director of a nearby nursing home showed up, mistaking Si-hyun as a volunteer coming to help with Tae-hee. He was dragged over to help with a pile of cabbages. At that moment, Si-hyun regretted everything, but it was already too late. He ended up spending the whole day working with Tae-hee. As he watched her perform for the elderly, he was unexpectedly struck by how beautiful she looked. Feeling that something was seriously off with himself, he called Soo-ji, asking to cancel the plan. But Soo-ji furiously yelled at him over the phone. The next day, the two families were supposed to have dinner together. But neither Si-hyun nor his father showed up. Soo-ji's mother called repeatedly, but no one answered. Soo-ji, feeling uncomfortable, got up to leave, only to accidentally witness Si-hyun's father embracing another woman. Shockingly, the woman was none other than Tae-hee's mother. Meanwhile, Si-hyun returned to the nursing home. Watching Tae-hee from a distance, he found himself increasingly drawn to this kind-hearted girl. While wiping windows together, he suddenly took the opportunity to hold her hand. Back at home, Soo-ji accidentally broke a plate in his bag. When she tried to explain, Si-hyun, for the first time, lost his temper with her. The plate was actually handmade by Tae-hee and was meant to be delivered to the elderly ladies at the nursing home the next day. When Soo-ji saw it, she picked it up and asked who had made it. Unexpectedly, Si-hyun, now visibly angry, snatched the plate from her, accidentally cutting Soo-ji's hand in the process. This immediately brought Si-hyun back to his senses, and he hurried to apologize. But from the look in his eyes, Soo-ji could tell, Tae had begun to mean something different to him. Realizing his own emotional shift, Si-hyun suggested abandoning the plan. But Soo-ji, heartbroken, walked into the middle of the road, forcing him to continue pursuing Tae-hee. She felt he didn't understand her at all. Caught between her parents, she had always tried to protect everything Si-hyun had. Si-hyun gently embraced her, wishing both of them could stop this dangerous game of love. After safely sending Soo-ji home, Si-hyun mentioned he was considering enlisting in the military and promised to stand by her side when he returned. But Soo-ji told him not to entertain such ideas. The next day, Tae-hee was scheduled to move into the dorms. Si-hyun initially didn't want to get involved, but when he heard it would snow, he couldn't help but go see her. When he arrived, he saw Tae-hee struggling with her luggage. Without hesitation, he walked up and took her bags for her. His sudden appearance touched Tae-hee in a way she didn't fully understand. Si-hyun carried all her luggage to the car by himself. Just as Tae-hee was about to get in, he stopped her. However, when they arrived at the dorm, Tae-hee was told her housing was cancelled, another move orchestrated by Soo-ji to push Si-hyun to get closer to Tae-hee. Seeing Tae-hee making desperate phone calls for help filled Si-hyun with guilt. He offered to take her with him, but Tae-hee collapsed in despair, unwilling to move. Si-hyun ended up driving her to his own home. He even set the door code to her phone number. Inside, she noticed a sketch of herself drawn by Si-hyun on the glass window. This gesture moved her deeply. Later, while at the convenience store, Tae could no longer hide her feelings. Meanwhile, Soo-ji deliberately arranged for Kim-ju to sit in the front seat, while she herself sat next to the violin case. Yet despite all this, she still left like a stranger on a dead-end road. In the car, Kim Joo brought up how Si-hyun had helped Tae-hee move. Hearing this, Soo-ji realized Si-hyun had hidden something from her. Her intuition as a woman told her, Si-hyun had truly started to fall for Tae. When Tae-hee saw the photos of the two of them, she felt a wave of emotions. Back at home, Si-hyun was waiting for her, having prepared a lavish meal. But Tae-hee was filled with unspoken anger. "What did you do to this?" she asked, referring to a sauce. "The sauce needs to be exposed," she added sharply. As she got up to find tools in Si-hyun's room, she accidentally discovered a box in his drawer containing engraved tokens, created from the comments section. Seeing them left her stunned. That evening, Soo-ji asked Si-hyun where Tae-hee had moved to. Si-hyun pretended not to know, when in fact he had arranged for Tae-hee to stay right across from him, in the room that once belonged to his late mother. Soo-ji insisted that he continue with the plan. The three of them would take Tae-hee on a trip, get closer, and then coldly abandon her. That way no one would get hurt. Hearing this, Si-hyun's expression faltered. Soo-ji clearly noticed the hesitation in him. The next day, Tae-hee accidentally twisted her ankle while carrying something. As she stepped outside, she ran into Si-hyun. When Si-hyun noticed Tae-hee, he quickly ran over and asked where she was going. Tae-hee, still upset with him, brushed him off, saying she was going to find Kim Joo, then walked away. Si-hyun soon realized she was limping. As Tae-hee stepped out of the train station, she discovered she had been tricked by Kim Joo. Furious, Si-hyun appeared again, offering to take her back to Seoul, but Tae-hee refused no matter what. With no other option, Si-hyun decided to take her on a trip instead. When Soo-ji arrived at the destination, she was stunned to witness an affectionate moment between the two. The man who had liked her for over 10 years had suddenly changed his heart. Watching them so happy together, Soo-ji finally realized she had lost this game. She found a moment to send Tae-hee away and sarcastically remarked to Si-hyun that he was doing a great job pretending to be the perfect boyfriend. Si-hyun shot back, "Isn't this exactly what you wanted?" After all, it was Soo-ji who had arranged this whole trip to get them closer. Yet seeing them joyfully grilling meat together made Soo-ji feel consumed with jealousy. Tae-hee noticed and tried to cheer her up by pushing her on a swing, but Soo-ji only had eyes for Si-hyun. Left behind, Si-hyun sat alone on a bench, quietly drowning in sorrow. At dinner, Si-hyun thoughtfully added meat to Tae-hee's bowl, which made Soo-ji increasingly uncomfortable. Then he even took Soo-ji's chopsticks away, concerned for her hand. Since she played piano, she wasn't supposed to use it too much. Watching Si-hyun show such care for Soo-ji stirred complex feelings in Tae-hee's heart. Later, Soo-ji brought over a bottle of red wine. Both Si-hyun and Tae-hee were worried she might injure her hand while opening it, so Sunbin quickly took the bottle and opened it herself. Seeing how close the three were, Tae-hee began to feel like an outsider. At one point, Si-hyun came over with a blanket. He handed one to Soo-ji first, then gently spread another over Tae-hee's lap. Witnessing this, Soo-ji couldn't suppress her bitterness any longer. She suddenly brought up a story from middle school, recalling a beautiful older girl who had been mean to her. Si-hyun had once made a bet to see who could get that girl's attention to get revenge for Soo-ji. As Soo-ji spoke, she slowly unveiled the truth. Tae-hee picked up on the strange dynamic between them and tried to change the topic by bringing up Si-hyun's drawings. Unexpectedly, Soo-ji laughed and said that Si-hyun actually hated drawing. Tae-hee mentioned how he'd painted so much at the nursing home and how the elderly loved his art. The moment turned awkward, and Tae-hee quietly excused herself. Realizing the truth, Si-hyun was shaken to his core. He had fallen deeply for Tae-hee, unable to pull himself out. The only one who remained clear-headed was Se-ju, who stopped Soo-ji and questioned her. Why did she insist on tearing Si-hyun and Tae-hee apart? After doing so much, what was she trying to confirm with Si-hyun? And in that moment, the Soo-ji from back then surfaced again. It turned out that Soo-ji had long questioned Si-hyun about that kiss they almost shared in high school. Why didn't it happen? To Soo-ji, Si-hyun had always been just a friend. Even the affection he showed was merely the affection of friendship. That's why their relationship could never move forward. But those words deeply pierced Soo-ji's heart. She couldn't accept such a cruel truth. In a desperate attempt to prove she still mattered to someone, she took the initiative. She kissed Se-ju. Although she acted boldly, Seju's heart started racing. Meanwhile, Sihyun received a call from Tae-hee and wanted to go find her, but just then, Sihyun collapsed and had to be rushed to the hospital. Seju was the one who took her there. Later, Sihyun told Seju that things between him and Tae-hee were officially over. Seju responded by saying he now wanted to date Suji. Surprisingly, Sihyun wasn't jealous. He was genuinely happy for them and even praised Seju for being bold. The next day, Seju sent Suji the location of a planned date. It was the place where they had first made their marriage bet. Suji couldn't help but feel slightly emotional, as if something had shifted. Seju showed up at the meeting spot with all of Suji's favorite desserts. Suji tasted them and was clearly happy. Seju told her that he planned to open a dessert shop right across from her school, just so she could enjoy sweets whenever she liked. Suji began having recurring dreams about Seju. She wondered whether the kiss she had given him was being used to get revenge on her, but what she didn't realize was that Seju was being sincere. Trying to clear the air, Suji called Seju over. She brought up the kiss but still couldn't figure out his real intentions. Seju looked at her, sensing she still couldn't see his own feelings clearly. That made him inexplicably sad. Suji then told him that there could never be romantic love between them. Now it was Seju's turn to regret. Suji walked away angrily, leaving Seju sighing helplessly. Meanwhile, Sihyun was out on a date with Tae-hee. During their conversation, Sihyun learned that Tae-hee had been in a car accident 2 years ago. The driver had fled the scene, and Tae had been carrying the psychological trauma ever since. Suddenly, Sihyun remembered something Suji's mother had once told him. His mother had died during a hit-and-run incident. The driver had fled, and the victim had been a female university student. Back home, Sihyun contacted a police officer he knew to verify his suspicions, and as he feared, it turned out the person who had been hit was Tae-hee. The next day, Sihyun invited Tae-hee to meet that evening. Tae, thinking it was a romantic date, gladly accepted. When Suji saw Tae-hee, she greeted her warmly but then intentionally mentioned, "See you tonight," hinting at the real plan. Sihyun, Suji, and Seju had secretly arranged a breakup dinner. Sihyun even told Tae-hee to dress up nicely for the evening. Tae-hee took it seriously and arrived in an especially charming outfit. At the dinner, she unconsciously touched the necklace she wore, a keepsake that had once belonged to Sihyun's late mother. Suji noticed it right away. Despite knowing its significance, she coldly pushed Tae-hee toward breaking up with Sihyun. Later, Tae-hee was seen desperately chasing after a car in the street, but Suji coldly led Sihyun away, leaving Tae-hee behind in tears. Suji believed that once the breakup happened, everything would return to its original place. But Sihyun looked heartbroken. He reminded Suji that back when they were hurting, it had always been just the three of them comforting each other. No one else could understand how they felt. He confessed that he had thought their trio's connection was normal until Tae-hee came along. In his darkest moments, it was always Tae-hee who comforted and healed him. Sihyun then pulled aside his collar, revealing a necklace that matched Tae-hee's exactly. It was a pair. Suji finally had to admit that Sihyun had fallen in love with Tae-hee. Crushed by the realization, she stormed out of the room, overwhelmed with regret. If she had never started this twisted game of love, perhaps none of this would have happened. Maybe Sihyun and she would already be happily married. The next morning, Sihyun awoke to find Suji acting like nothing had happened. She casually brought up a new topic while chatting with Sihyun, a woman who was dating Sihyun's father. She even brought out a file on the woman, but didn't tell Sihyun it was Tae-hee's mother. Seju, who also knew the truth, remained silent, afraid of the consequences. Suji hinted that this woman had known Sihyun's father for years, possibly an old flame, and urged Sihyun to take revenge on behalf of his mother. Sihyun noticed that Seju was acting strange and pressed him for the truth, but Seju remained quiet. Sihyun could only plead with them not to do anything reckless. But Sihyun wasn't convinced. Determined to get to the bottom of things, he took the file and went to ask his father's secretary about the woman. The secretary told him something shocking. Sihyun's mother had been on her way to confront that very woman when she died in the car accident. The next day, Suji visited her mother and found her eating alone, looking visibly distressed. Seeing her mother in such pain, Soo-ji decided to take matters into her own hands. She secretly contacted Si-hyun's father, hoping to use their relationship to push for a marriage between the two families. Soo-ji didn't realize that her suggestion to marry Si-hyun would become the final straw in their already fragile relationship. Si-hyun, once utterly devoted to Soo-ji, had treated her like royalty. She had planned romantic surprises for his birthday, only to be met with rejection. He once said, "I want to be with you forever," and had even flirted with Tae-hee just to prove his loyalty to Soo-ji. But now, things had changed. He had fallen for someone else. When Soo-ji proposed marriage to Si-hyun's father on their behalf, Si-hyun exploded, accusing her of using him. "It was you who brought up marriage first," she protested. But in the end, the blame still landed on her. Si-hyun confessed that he had reconciled with Tae-hee. That very morning, Tae had run into the middle of the street to stop his car. She dragged him out, demanding to know why he had broken up with her. She couldn't believe that the same man who gave her his mother's precious heirloom would ever truly hate her. So Si-hyun finally told her, the driver who hit her and fled was none other than his own mother. To his surprise, Tae didn't get angry. She simply said, "That was your mother's mistake. It has nothing to do with you." Her maturity and forgiveness made him feel even more guilty. Later, Si-hyun coldly walked away from Soo-ji. Seju told her that Si-hyun had changed and that he now regretted their childish love games. He asked her, "What are you so afraid of?" But Soo-ji could only fire the question back at him. Back home, Soo-ji's mother begged her not to marry Si-hyun. After some pressing, she finally told her the devastating truth: Soo-ji wasn't her biological daughter. The revelation broke her. She immediately tried to call Si-hyun, desperate to find and comfort her. But what she didn't know was that at that very moment, Si-hyun was celebrating his birthday with Tae-hee, no longer needing anyone else. Late at night, Soo-ji went to find Si-hyun, hoping to talk. But when she arrived, she saw Tae-hee joyfully rushing into Si-hyun's house with a pillow. That's when she realized they lived just across from each other. And she was the outsider now. Seju arrived and saw Soo-ji's crushed expression. He felt heartbroken for her. The next day, she took a taxi to school, and just as she arrived, she saw Si-hyun and Tae-hee together. Soo-ji tried to pull her hand away, embarrassed, but Si-hyun firmly held on. Soo-ji had to endure another painful blow, completely ignored once again. She walked away, cold and bitter. Once, Si-hyun had cherished her so much he wouldn't even let her carry chopsticks alone. But now, all that tenderness was given to someone else. That afternoon, both families had lunch together. Si-hyun's grandmother deliberately asked when Soo-ji planned to go study abroad. She was worried that once Soo-ji's mother married Si-hyun's father, Soo-ji might have a claim on the family's inheritance. Angered, Soo-ji retorted that she already had plans for her future. Her mother tried to calm her down and asked the two of them to go outside to talk. Meanwhile, Tae-hee appeared at the school office to help Si-hyun gather information about the art program. Soo saw them chatting and laughing together, and her heart burned with jealousy. She purposely brought up Si-hyun's father's first love, suggesting they might still meet again. Si-hyun shook his head. "That's impossible now," he said. But Soo smiled coldly and replied, "You can't be so sure about that." Meanwhile, Si-hyun's father decided to visit Tae-hee's mother, perhaps to finally put the past to rest. On the way there, he was involved in a car accident. When Si-hyun arrived, he learned not only about the accident but also something far more painful. His father had long been ill and was now on the verge of losing his sight. In the hospital room, Tae-hee's mother apologized to Si-hyun. She had no idea that Si-hyun's father had been on his way to see her that day. As fate would have it, her own daughter, Tae-hee, was in a car accident. The perpetrator had fled the scene. Suddenly, something clicked in Si-hyun's mind. Could she be Tae-hee's mother? Heart racing, he called Soo-ji. But it was too late. Soo-ji had already gone to find Tae-hee. The truth had come crashing down. The son of the man just released from the hospital had fallen for the daughter of the woman who caused his wife's death. Soo-ji told Tae-hee everything. Si-hyun's mother died because of your mother. Tae-hee was shattered. Her world spun out of control. Her own mother, the person she trusted most, was the one responsible for Si-hyun's deepest scar. Consumed by guilt, she broke down completely. Elsewhere, Sihyun finally confronted Suji. "You knew this whole time, didn't you?" he asked. "You watched me fall in love with her, and said nothing." Suji didn't deny it. When she asked whether she had told Tae-hee too, her silence was answer enough. There was something terrifying in her stillness. Sihyun's voice cracked with disbelief. "This was between us. Why did you have to drag Tae-hee into it?" But Suji shot back coldly, "If anyone's the villain here, it's not me, it's you. I only tried to protect my mother. You were the one who proposed marriage to stop your father's wedding. You were the one who pursued Tae-hee first, not me." But no matter how hard she tried to hold on, Suji still lost him. After leaving her side, Sihyun searched desperately for Tae-hee, combing through every corner of campus. But she was nowhere to be found. She wandered through the school grounds. Suddenly, Sihyun appeared behind her. "I just found out yesterday," he said, his voice soft. "Please don't leave because of this." Every time Tae-hee looked at Sihyun now, she could only think of her mother. The guilt was too heavy, she simply couldn't face him anymore. So she did the only thing she could bear. She gave him one last kiss goodbye. Later, Suji and Tae-hee was having a heated argument. Sihyun arrived mid-fight. He simply stepped forward, shielding Tae-hee behind him. "Don't touch her," he warned. "Let's go." He took Tae-hee's hand and led her away. Blinded by rage and betrayal, she stormed into her car. Moments later, she charged toward the couple, her car aimed straight at them. But in that final second, she regained control and swerved away. Still, the sight of her unhinged state stunned Sihyun. He moved to confront her, but Tae-hee pulled him back. Then suddenly, Tae-hee remembered something. Something that changed everything. The person who hit her with a car wasn't Sihyun's mother. It was Suji's mother. That day, Sihyun's mother had collapsed in the street from a heart attack. She tried to wave down a car for help, only to be struck by the headmistress, who promised to return, but never did. That headmistress was Suji's mother. Even now, the woman refused to apologize. Tae-hee was at the hospital when Suji arrived, only to find her mother in a breakdown, sobbing uncontrollably. Misreading the situation, she thought Tae-hee had provoked her mother. Enraged, she confronted her. It was in that chaotic moment that Seo arrived. He'd gotten a desperate call from Suji. He found her slumped in her car, forehead resting on the steering wheel, as if trying to disappear from the world. He brought her home. Said nothing. Just stayed with her. In this trio of tangled fates, someone was always left out. And it was always Seo, the quiet, loyal friend. But still, he never left Suji's side. "Even if it all falls apart," he said softly, "I'll still be here." The next day, Suji returned home to a shocking sight. Sihyun sitting with her mother. He had uncovered something chilling. Years ago, Suji's mother had deliberately told Sihyun's mother that his father had gone to meet his old flame. She knew the woman had heart issues. Panicked and betrayed, Sihyun's mother rushed out, only to encounter Suji's mother in her car. In the chaos, she ran over Tae-hee as well. The one who killed Sihyun's mother and hit Tae-hee was the headmistress herself. The truth shattered Suji. Sihyun looked at her with sorrow. "I won't tell my father. I won't tell Tae either," he said. "I'm afraid neither of you could bear it." What Sihyun didn't know was that Suji had heard everything. Now, with things falling into place, Sihyun prepared to study abroad. He asked his grandmother to give him a little more time to wrap things up. He went to the school to find Tae. He asked her to move back home. He also told her about his plan to leave for overseas studies. Suji happened to witness the scene, but this time, she didn't feel hate. Only guilt. Without a word, she turned and walked away. That night, Suji lay awake, burdened by everything she'd done. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Sihyun. "I know you're still awake. Try falling asleep while thinking of me." The next day, Sihyun met her again. He handed her a bouquet of her favorite purple flowers. But Suji dropped another surprise. She was also going abroad and taking her mother with her. Seo was shaken. Of the three friends, he would be the only one left behind. Seeing Suji's pain, he made a bold decision. "I'll return things to how they were." To truly reset everything, Seo finally told Tae-hee the truth. From the beginning, his approach had been a plan. He was part of a bet between Si-hyun and Soo-ji. Tae had been nothing more than a pawn. He murmured, "But I never knew it would break hearts." Taehee's world shattered. Unable to stand, she collapsed. The security guard, sensing something was wrong, stepped in and answered Si-hyun's call. By the time Si-hyun arrived, he saw Taehee stumbling out of the building and knew instantly she had found out. No matter how Si-hyun tried to explain that his feelings had become real, Taehee couldn't forgive him. He had originally planned to come clean and apologize today, but didn't expect Seo to beat him to it. In that moment, the melancholy between him and Seo shattered. Si-hyun, overwhelmed with emotion, knocked Seo to the ground. He wanted to strike him, but stopped. He knew he no longer had any right to blame anyone. So, Si-hyun punched the photo of the three of them together, the once inseparable trio. The next day, Seo went to visit Soo-ji and told him everything he had done. After listening, Soo-ji told Seo to blame everything on herself. Her friendship with Si-hyun was beyond repair, and she didn't want Seo and Si-hyun to also become enemies. Later, Soo-ji went to the hospital to visit Si-hyun, but Si-hyun didn't want to see her. Soo-ji apologized for ramming into the two of them in the parking lot and took full responsibility, admitting that everything Seo did was under her instructions. Soo-ji said that when she thought back on all they had done recently, it felt like they were monsters, even though she herself was the main culprit. The rich second generation found out his first love was manipulated and toyed with. He wanted to completely destroy Si-hyun. Taehee rushed to save them but only enraged him further. Si-hyun used the last of his strength to tackle the man. The man picked up a weapon from the ground and furiously struck Si-hyun. At the critical moment, Taehee ran forward to shield him, but in the end, Si-hyun still protected her and was knocked to the ground. Due to excessive blood loss, Si-hyun was rushed to the emergency room. The man broke into Soo-ji's house. At that moment, Soo-ji didn't know what had happened. She told him to get out. The man then showed her a video of Si-hyun being beaten. She panicked upon seeing it and quickly called Seo. Then, the man showed her a photo of Si-hyun's bruised and battered face. Soo-ji was terrified and began to tremble. She had only wanted to take revenge on the man for leaving her. She hadn't realized how deeply twisted the man's heart was. Now, this was the man's revenge on her. Since Soo-jo had hurt his first love, the man decided to hurt the one Soo-ji cared about the most. After the man left, Soo-jo sat on the ground in despair. She went to the hospital to find Seo and saw Si-hyun unconscious from the beating. She deeply regretted what she had done, but it was too late to fix anything. Seo took her home and told her to rest well. Due to her guilt, Soo-ji took an entire bottle of amine supplements. She began hallucinating, seeing Si-hyun bringing him flowers. She tried to touch him but realized it was all fake. In a daze, she picked up a vase and filled it with water. By accident, the vase fell to the floor and shattered. She knew she had lost everything, just like the shattered vase. She broke down, picking up a shard and stabbing herself, drawing blood, but felt no pain. When her mother came home, Soo-ji had already collapsed on the ground, surrounded by pools of blood. With the vase's fall, Soo-ji knew she had lost everything. Although her life was saved, the nerves in her hand were damaged, and she would need to recover before she could play again. Seeing Soo-ji like this, Seo felt incredibly guilty and brought flowers to visit he every day afterward. Meanwhile, Si-hyun was still unconscious. Taehee stayed by his side, hoping to wake him up. Once Seo realized that both Si-hyun and Soo-ji needed him, he quietly left the country alone. One day, he accidentally found a notebook and thought to read it aloud, but upon opening it, discovered it was filled with drawings of herself and heartfelt confessions of guilt for everything that had been done to her. Only then did she realize that Si-hyun had loved her all along. At that moment, all she wanted was for Si-hyun to wake up. When Soo-ji regained consciousness, she searched everywhere for Seo but couldn't find him. She had no idea where Seo had gone, until one day, she realized that Seo had always been by her side. But now he was gone. With Taehee's constant companionship, Si-hyun finally woke up 2 weeks later. However, Tae no longer dared to face him. When Si-hyun woke, he saw a photo album on the chair and realized Tae had been there. He wanted to find Tae-hee but was overwhelmed by a splitting headache. After confirming that Si-hyun was well, Tae-hee decided to go study abroad. She hoped that once everything had passed, they could meet again. 5 years later, Soo-ji had become a renowned violinist. One day, she unexpectedly received a bouquet of flowers. Opening the note, she saw an address and immediately recognized it. It was Seo-jo's. Over the years, Seo-jo had opened a bar overseas. Every day, the bar played Soo-ji's compositions, and the bar was even named the Cello. That night, as usual, Seo-jo drank alone, until Soo-ji suddenly appeared. Seo-jo was caught completely off guard. Soo-ji, overwhelmed with emotion, rushed forward and hugged him. Seo-jo's more than 20-year-long unspoken love had finally come to an end. Meanwhile, Tae-hee had become an architectural designer. One day, she visited a client's home and found the walls covered in her own drawings. She immediately realized they were Si-hyun's work and rushed to the balcony, and sure enough, Si-hyun was there waiting for her. After years of pain, betrayal, separation, and healing, they had all found their way back to one another, not as who they were, but as who they had grown to be. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and drop a heart to help our channel out. Thank you.